single black mom got into the billionaire CEO's car by mistake holding
I'm sorry.
her sick son, unaware he'd been searching for her for 5 years.
Wrong car.
Kendra? The word cut through the air like a knife. I froze, my son trembling in my arms, rain-soaked and desperate. I'd just climbed into what I thought was my rideshare, but the man staring back at me wasn't a driver. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. And he knew my name. Fletcher Hayes, the billionaire I'd been hiding from for 5 years, the father of the dying child in my arms. And he had no idea. I thought getting into the wrong car would ruin my life. Instead, it brought me face to face with the one man I swore I'd never see again. Have you ever made a split-second decision that changed everything? Have you ever run from your problems only to have them find you when you least expected it? I was a broke single mother with a dying son in my arms, drowning in medical debt I'd never pay off. One wrong car door was all it took to shatter the walls I'd built around my secret. But what I didn't know was that while I was hiding, he was searching. And when our worlds collided again, nothing would ever be the same. If you've ever felt trapped by your past, hit that like button right now, because this story is about to show you that sometimes the things we run from are exactly what we need. And don't go anywhere, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Let me take you back to where it all began. November 15th, the day my carefully constructed life fell apart and somehow, impossibly, started to come together. The hospital bill crumpled in my hand like my last shred of hope. $12,000. The numbers blurred through my tears as I stood outside Mercy General Medical Center, my 4-year-old son Caleb, whimpering against my shoulder. The November wind sliced through my thin coat, but it was nothing compared to the ice-cold fear that had settled in my chest. $12,000 for insulin, for the supplies that kept my baby alive, for the medication that his tiny body needed every single day to manage his juvenile diabetes. Our Medicaid had lapsed 2 months ago when I lost my job at the marketing firm. The gap in coverage meant everything fell on me, and I had nothing left to give. Mama, I don't feel good. Caleb's voice was so small, so weak. It broke something inside me every time I heard it. I know, baby. Just hold on for Mama, okay? We're going to fix this. I tried to sound confident, but my voice cracked. I'd been rationing his last vial of insulin for 3 days, stretching it as far as it would go. This morning, I'd given him the last drop. There was nothing left. My phone buzzed. The reminder that my job interview started in 35 minutes across town. A real opportunity at a tech startup that actually seemed interested in my project management background. But Caleb came first. He always came first. I'd called the free clinic, but they couldn't see us for 4 hours. 4 hours my son didn't have. His blood sugar had been dangerously high all morning. I could see it in his glassy eyes, hear it in his rapid breathing. The rideshare app on my phone showed my driver 2 minutes away. I'd spent my last $30 on this ride. $30 that should have gone to food, but getting to this interview on time was the only chance I had at fixing any of this, at getting a job with benefits, at saving my son's life. Through the gray drizzle, I spotted a sleek black car pulling up to the curb. The app said my driver was in a black sedan. This had to be it. I didn't have time to double-check. Caleb coughed weakly in my arms, and I made my decision. I pulled open the rear door and slid inside with Caleb, desperate to get out of the cold. The warmth of the car hit me immediately. Expensive leather seats, the subtle scent of cologne that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to be. Thank God. I'm so sorry we're running late, but could you please take us to... Kendra? My voice died in my throat. I looked up, really looked up. The man in the back seat wasn't a driver. There was no plexiglass partition, no rideshare placard, just a man in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been made specifically for his body, because it probably had been. Dark eyes that I'd seen in my dreams and nightmares for 5 solid years. A face I'd memorized and tried desperately to forget. Fletcher Hayes. Time stopped. My heart stopped. Everything stopped except for Caleb's labored breathing against my chest. Fletcher's eyes were wide, scanning my face like he was seeing a ghost. His lips parted slightly. For a man who commanded boardrooms and built empires, he looked genuinely shocked, almost disbelieving. Kendra Washington. His voice was deeper than I remembered. Richer. After all this time, the words hit me like a physical blow. All this time, what did that mean? How long had he known I was gone? Had he looked for me? The question spiraled through my mind, but all I could do was stare. First, this isn't, I stammered, my hand already reaching for the door handle. My exit. My escape. This isn't my ride. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Wait. Fletcher's hand shot out, not touching me, but gesturing for me to stop. The authority in that single word made me freeze. Please. Caleb shifted in my arms, coughing again. The sound was wet and weak. Fletcher's gaze dropped to my son, and I watched his expression shift. The shock gave way to something else. Concern. His eyes took in Caleb's pale skin, the medical alert bracelet on his tiny wrist, the way he was barely holding his head up. Your son. Fletcher's voice had changed, softened in a way that made my throat tight. Is he all right? He doesn't look well. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run, to grab Caleb and bolt from this car, from this man, from the past I'd worked so hard to bury. 5 years ago, I'd disappeared from Fletcher Hayes' life without a word. I'd vanished in the middle of the night, covering my tracks so completely that I'd erased myself from his world. But Caleb let out another weak cough, and the sound cut through every fear I had. Maternal override. My son needed help, and pride wasn't going to save him. He has diabetes. The words came out flat, defensive. Type 1. I'm managing it. Fletcher's jaw tightened. He needs medical attention. Now. I have an appointment at the free clinic. I clutched Caleb tighter, feeling how warm he was. Too warm. And then I have a job interview. I can handle this. Fletcher leaned forward, and I saw the shift from the man who'd recognized me to the billionaire CEO who was used to solving problems. Driver. His voice carried the weight of someone who expected to be obeyed immediately. Change of plans. Take us to Mercy General Hospital. Emergency entrance. No. The word burst out of me, sharp with panic. The car was already moving, pulling smoothly into traffic. Fletcher, you don't understand. I can't afford to go to the emergency room. I can't afford any of this. That's why I'm going to the free clinic. That's why I have to make this interview. Then help me understand. He turned those dark eyes on me, and I felt the full force of his attention. It was like being caught in a spotlight. Kendra, I've been looking for you for 5 years. 5 years. And you show up in my car by accident with a sick child, and you think I'm going to let you walk away again? The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Loaded with history I didn't want to unpack. Not here. Not now. Not with Caleb burning up in my arms. Mama? Caleb's small voice cut through the tension. I feel dizzy. My heart clenched. I shifted him in my lap, pressing my hand to his forehead. He was burning up. Fever plus high blood sugar. This was bad. This was really bad. How long has he been without insulin? Fletcher asked. His voice was calm, but I could hear the edge underneath it. 3 days. I couldn't meet his eyes. I've been rationing what we had left, but it ran out this morning. 3 days. Fletcher's voice was very quiet, very controlled. And you were going to wait 4 hours at a free clinic? I didn't have a choice. The words came out sharper than I intended. Some of us don't have the luxury of options, Fletcher. Silence fell between us. The only sound was the smooth hum of the car's engine and Caleb's labored breathing. Through the tinted windows, I watched the city blur past. We were heading away from my interview, away from my carefully planned day, toward a hospital I couldn't afford and a reckoning I'd been avoiding for 5 years. How did you find me? I whispered, still not looking at him. I didn't. Fletcher's laugh was humorless, almost bitter. You found me. Though God knows I've had investigators searching for years. I never stopped looking, Kendra. The admission sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with my rain-soaked clothes. He'd been looking for me, actively searching, for 5 years. While I'd been hiding, building a life in the shadows, he'd been trying to find me. Why? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Fletcher was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with an emotion I couldn't quite name. Because you'd disappeared. Because one day you were there, and the next you were gone like you'd never existed. Because I needed to know if what we had was real, or if I'd imagined the whole thing. It was real. The words escaped before I could call them back. Too real. That's why I left. Before Fletcher could respond, the car pulled smoothly to a stop. We were at Mercy General's emergency entrance. Through the window, I could see the bright lights of the ER, the automatic doors, the organized chaos of a hospital in motion. Fletcher opened his door and stepped out, then turned back to me. His hand extended, offering help I desperately needed and couldn't afford to accept. "Come on." His voice was gentle now. "Let's get your son the help he needs. We can figure out everything else after." I looked down at Caleb. His eyes were half closed, his breathing shallow. My pride, my fear, my carefully constructed walls. None of it mattered more than him. I took Fletcher's hand and let him help me out of the car. The emergency room moved with frightening efficiency once Fletcher Hayes made it clear he would be covering all costs. It was like watching a machine shift into high gear. Within minutes, we were bypassing the waiting room. A triage nurse was taking Caleb's vitals. A doctor was being paged. "I want to see Dr. Sarah Rivera." Fletcher's voice was calm but absolute. "She's the head of pediatric endocrinology. Tell her it's urgent." "Sir, Dr. Rivera doesn't usually handle emergency cases." The nurse looked flustered, caught between protocol and the obvious wealth and authority of the man in front of her. "Then page her anyway." Fletcher's tone didn't change, but something in it made the nurse nod and pick up the phone. I stood there holding Caleb, watching this unfold like I was outside my own body. This wasn't how things worked for people like me. People like me waited for hours in plastic chairs. We filled out forms and worried about bills and hoped someone would see us eventually. We didn't have doctors paged on demand. "Ma'am?" A young nurse with kind eyes was gesturing to me. "Let's get him into a bay. Can you tell me his name and date of birth?" "Caleb Washington." I followed her through a set of double doors, my voice mechanical as I recited information. "Born March 7th. He's 4 years old. Type 1 diabetes diagnosed at 18 months. He's been without insulin for 3 days. 3 days? The nurse's eyes widened, but she didn't judge. She just moved faster. "Okay, we're going to take good care of him. Let's get him on this bed." The pediatric bay was small but clean, decorated with cheerful cartoon, characters that seemed absurd against the backdrop of medical equipment. I laid Caleb down on the bed, and he immediately curled onto his side, whimpering. "Mama, don't leave. I'm right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere." I gripped his small hand, my own shaking. Within moments, the nurse had an 4 kit laid out. She was gentle as she inserted the line into Caleb's arm, but he still cried. Each whimper felt like a knife to my heart. I'd failed him. I'd let it get to this point. What kind of mother runs out of insulin for her diabetic child? "The kind who's doing everything she can," a voice said from the doorway. I looked up to see a woman in a white coat striding into the room. She was maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Dr. Sarah Rivera, according to her name tag. "I'm Dr. Rivera." She moved to Caleb's bedside with practiced efficiency, already reviewing his chart on a tablet. "Fletcher called me." She glanced at me with an expression that was kind but assessing. "Your mom?" "I'm Kendra." I couldn't seem to let go of Caleb's hand. "He's my son." "Tell me what's been going on, Kendra." Dr. Rivera was checking Caleb's pulse, her fingers gentle on his wrist. "Start from when he last had insulin." I walked her through the past 3 days. The rationing, the careful calculations that had become increasingly desperate, the high blood sugar readings that I'd watched climb with growing panic. My voice stayed steady through most of it, clinical and detached. But when I got to this morning, when I'd given him the last drop and watched the vial run dry, my voice finally cracked. I didn't know what else to do. I have a job interview. I need insurance. I need to be able to afford his medication consistently. I just needed to make it until I could get a job with benefits. Dr. Rivera's hand touched my shoulder briefly. Her eyes were understanding, no judgment, just compassion. "You've been doing this alone?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Well, you're not alone anymore." Dr. Rivera turned to the nurse. "Get me a glucose reading, then let's start an insulin drip. Normal saline as well. I want labs for a 1C, kidney function, and a metabolic panel. And someone bring Mom a chair and some water. She looks ready to fall over." The next 20 minutes blurred together. Medical terminology I only half understood. The steady beep of monitors, the nurse explaining each step as she worked. Caleb's color slowly starting to improve as the insulin drip fed life back into his small body. Through it all, Fletcher stood in the doorway, not interfering, not demanding attention, just present, watching with an intensity that made my skin prickle with awareness. Finally, when Caleb's readings had stabilized and he drifted into a more peaceful sleep than I'd seen from him in days, Dr. Rivera pulled me aside. "He's going to be fine." Her voice was firm, reassuring. "But Kendra, this can't happen again. Diabetic ketoacidosis is serious. If you'd waited much longer—" "I know." I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking. "I know. I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can, but the system is broken." Dr. Rivera's voice was matter-of-fact. "And mothers like you fall through the cracks trying to do the impossible." She paused. "Fletcher mentioned you're between jobs right now? I lost my position 2 months ago, downsizing, and with it went my insurance. I've been applying everywhere, but finding something that pays enough and offers benefits when you have to bring your kid to interviews because you can't afford childcare." I stopped, realizing I was rambling. "Sorry, you don't need to hear all this. Actually, I think I do." Dr. Rivera glanced toward the doorway where Fletcher still stood. "And I think there's someone else who needs to hear it too." Before I could respond, she walked away, leaving me alone with my sleeping son and the weight of everything I'd been carrying alone for so long. I sank into the chair beside Caleb's bed and let myself cry. Quiet tears that I'd been holding back for days, weeks, months. The relief that he was okay mixed with the shame of how close I'd cut it. The gratitude for help I couldn't repay mixed with the humiliation of needing it in the first place. "Kendra." I looked up to find Fletcher standing beside me. He held out a box of tissues. His face was carefully neutral, but his eyes were soft. "Thank you." I took the tissues, wiping my face. "For this, for bringing us here. I'll pay you back. I promise it might take time, but I'll figure out a payment plan." "I don't want your money, Kendra." Fletcher's voice was quiet but firm. "I want answers." I'd known this was coming, had dreaded it since the moment I'd recognized him in that car. There was no escaping it now. "It's complicated." The words felt inadequate even as I said them. Then uncomplicated. Fletcher pulled up a chair and sat across from me, our knees almost touching in the small space. "You were working on the tech integration project for Hayes Industries. We were getting close. And then one morning, you were just gone. No note, no explanation. Your apartment was cleared out. Your phone was disconnected. It was like you'd never existed." The pain in his voice cut deeper than any accusation could have. I closed my eyes against the memory. I had my reasons. I think I deserved to know what they were. He was right. God help me, he was right. I owed him this truth, even if it destroyed whatever fragile truce we'd established in the urgency of Caleb's medical crisis. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. There was an incident at the company about a week before I left. Your head of security, Reeves, he called me into his office. Fletcher's expression darkened. What did he want? He showed me photographs. I could still see them in my mind, spread across that desk like evidence in a crime, of you and me, having coffee at that cafe near the office, walking in the park on our lunch break, having dinner at that Italian place you liked. He paused. He said there were people who had concerns about my background, about my intentions regarding you. What people? Fletcher's voice had gone very quiet, very dangerous. He never said, just implied that I was being investigated, that people thought I was some kind of opportunist trying to trap you, that a woman like me pursuing a man like you raised red flags. I felt the old shame rising, hot and bitter. He made it very clear that I was out of my depth, that I should step back before things got messy. That's absurd. Fletcher's hands had curled into fists on his knees. You were a project manager with a master's degree in business analytics. You were brilliant at your job. Whatever Reeves implied, it wasn't just about work, Fletcher. I interrupted, my voice rough. It was about us, about what was happening between us outside of work. And when he showed me those photos, when he made it clear that people were watching us, documenting us, investigating me, I shook my head. I panicked. The silence stretched between us. In the bed beside us, Caleb stirred slightly but didn't wake. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm. There's more. I forced myself to continue, to finish this. I was already pregnant when Reeves called me in. I didn't know it yet, but I was. And when I found out 2 weeks after I left, all I could think about was raising a child in that environment, with that scrutiny. with people thinking I'd gotten pregnant on purpose to trap a billionaire, with my baby being seen as a meal ticket instead of a person. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched Fletcher's face, saw the moment my words registered, really registered. You were pregnant. His voice was strange, hollow, with my child. I couldn't speak, could only nod. Fletcher stood abruptly. His hands went to his hair. He paced to the window, his back rigid. When he spoke again, his voice was strained with barely controlled emotion. You had my son, and you didn't think I had a right to know? I thought I was protecting him. The tears were falling again, hot and fast. Protecting both of you. From scandal. From people like Reeves who saw me as a threat. Fletcher, I grew up poor. My mother cleaned houses to put food on our table. I know what it's like to be looked down on, to be dismissed because of where you come from. I didn't want that for Caleb. So you chose to raise him alone. Fletcher turned from the window. His face was a mask of pain. To struggle like this? To watch him go without medicine? To be so desperate you're spending your last $30 on a rideshare to a job interview? I chose what I thought was best. My voice broke. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I've been wrong this whole time. But I did what I thought would give him the best chance at a normal life. Fletcher moved back toward me. The anger seemed to drain out of him, replaced by something that looked like grief. Raw and deep and devastating. I had a son for 5 years and didn't know it. His voice was barely above a whisper. 5 years of birthday candles and first words and scraped knees and bedtime stories. You took that from me, Kendra. You took it from both of us. I know. The sobs were choking me now. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We stood there in that small hospital room, 5 years of choices and consequences hanging between us like a physical weight. On the bed, Caleb slept on, peaceful and unaware that his world was about to change in ways he couldn't possibly understand. Finally, Fletcher spoke again. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the emotion underneath it. Reeves was fired 3 years ago. I discovered he'd been embezzling from the company, falsifying reports. When I dug deeper, I found evidence he'd been running unauthorized background checks on people in my personal life, overstepping his authority in ways that opened the company up to liability. He paused. If I'd known what he said to you, what he showed you, you couldn't have known. I wiped my face with the tissue, though the tears kept coming. I didn't give you the chance. No, you didn't. The words weren't accusatory, just sad. Statement of fact. Another long silence stretched between us. Then Caleb stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Mama? I was at his side immediately, my hand on his forehead. The fever had broken. His eyes were clearer than they'd been in days. I'm here, baby. How do you feel? Better. His voice was stronger, less thready. Where are we? We're at the hospital, sweetheart. But you're going to be okay. The doctor gave you medicine. You're going to be just fine. Caleb's gaze drifted past me to Fletcher, who had moved closer to the bed. The curiosity in my son's eyes was unmistakable. Who's that? My heart stopped. I looked at Fletcher, saw the raw hope in his eyes, the desperate want. This was the moment, the point of no return. Whatever I said next would change everything. I took a shaky breath. Caleb, baby. This is Fletcher. I paused, gathering courage. This is your daddy. If this is hitting you in your feelings right now, I need you to hit that like button. This father meeting his son for the first time, it's just the beginning. Comment below and tell me. Do you believe in second chances? Should Kendra have told Fletcher from the start? The conversation is about to get real, so make sure you're subscribed because this journey is far from over. The words hung in the air. Caleb looked from me to Fletcher and back again. His 4-year-old brain processing information that seemed both monumental and simple at the same time. My daddy? Caleb's voice held wonder. Like Emma's daddy who picks her up from school? Yes, baby. I smoothed his hair back from his forehead. Like that. Fletcher moved slowly, carefully, like he was approaching something precious and fragile. He knelt beside the bed, bringing himself to Caleb's eye level. His voice, when he spoke, was thick with emotion. Hi, Caleb. It's really nice to meet you. Caleb studied him with the intense focus that children have. You look like the picture Mama has, in her wallet. She says you were far away. I was. Fletcher's voice cracked slightly. But I'm here now, and I'm very happy to meet you. I didn't know he was sick. Caleb said this matter-of-factly. Emma's daddy always knows when she's sick. The innocent observation hit like a knife. I saw Fletcher flinch, saw the pain flash across his face, but he kept his voice steady. I didn't know either. But now that I do, I'm going to help make sure you have everything you need to feel better. Okay? Caleb considered this. Then, with the mercurial nature of small children, he shifted topics entirely. I have diabetes. Do you know what that is? I do. Fletcher settled into a more comfortable position, his attention completely focused on his son. It means your body needs help managing sugar. Mama says I'm very brave. Caleb held up his arm, showing Fletcher the medical alert bracelet. See? This tells people I'm special. You are special. Fletcher's hand reached out, hovering for a moment before gently touching the bracelet. Very special. I have to check my blood sugar. Caleb continued, clearly proud of this skill. I'm very good at it. Mama says I'm a big boy. You are a big boy. Fletcher glanced at me, and the expression on his face was complex. Gratitude, pain, wonder, grief, all mixed together. Your mama did a very good job teaching you. Can you help me check it? Caleb asked. Emma's daddy helps her with her allergy pens sometimes. They're partners. The word partners seemed to hit Fletcher like a physical blow. He looked at me, a question in his eyes. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. I would really like that. Fletcher's voice was hoarse. If you'll teach me how. Over the next 20 minutes, I watched something extraordinary happen. Caleb, with the unselfconscious openness of a child who'd never learned to guard his heart, began to let Fletcher in. He explained his glucose monitor, showed Fletcher the injection sites where he got his insulin, talked about the special snacks he had to carry, and how he couldn't eat cake at birthday parties unless Mama checked it first. Fletcher listened to every word like it was the most important information he'd ever received. He asked questions, nodded seriously at Caleb's explanations, and slowly, carefully, began to build a bridge with his son. Do you like dinosaurs? Caleb asked suddenly. I really like dinosaurs, especially T-Rex. He's the biggest. I do like dinosaurs. Fletcher smiled, and it transformed his face, made him look younger, more like the man I'd fallen for 5 years ago. T-Rex is pretty awesome. What about Stegosaurus? He's good too. Caleb yawned, the exhaustion of his ordeal catching up with him. But T-Rex is better because he's the king. That's a solid argument. Fletcher's hand rested on the bed rail, close to Caleb's but not touching. You must be pretty tired, huh? A little. Caleb's eyes were already drifting closed. Will you be here when I wake up? The question was simple. The answer, I knew, was anything but. I held my breath, waiting. Yes. Fletcher's voice was firm, absolute. I'll be here. I promise. Okay. Good. Caleb's eyes closed fully. Night, Mama. Night, Daddy. The word Daddy fell so naturally from his lips, like he'd been waiting his whole life to say it. And maybe he had been. Good night, baby. I managed to whisper. Fletcher didn't speak. Couldn't, I thought. He just sat there beside the bed, watching his son sleep with an expression of such profound wonder and grief that I had to look away. We sat in silence for a long time. The hospital sounds filtered in from outside. Voices in the hallway, the distant ding of elevators, the ever-present beeping of monitors. But inside our small room, there was only the sound of Caleb's peaceful breathing and the weight of everything unsaid. Finally, Fletcher stood. He gestured toward the hallway. Can we talk? Out there? I nodded. I leaned over and kissed Caleb's forehead, then followed Fletcher out of the room. The hallway was bright and clinical. A nurse smiled at us as she passed. Somewhere, a child was crying. Normal hospital sounds that felt surreal against the backdrop of what was happening to my life. Fletcher led me to a small family waiting room, empty at this hour. He closed the door behind us, and suddenly we were alone. Really alone. Without Caleb as a buffer. Without medical emergencies to distract us. Just 2 people and 5 years of hurt. He spoke first. I don't know where to start. Neither do I. I wrapped my arms around myself. Fletcher, let me finish. His voice wasn't harsh, just determined. I've had 5 years to think about what I'd say if I ever found you. And now that you're here, all those carefully planned speeches are gone. All I have left is the truth. He moved to the window, Outside, the city sprawled in the afternoon light. Somewhere out there was my tiny apartment, my missed job interview, the life I'd been barely holding together. It all seemed very far away. When you disappeared, Fletcher continued, I thought I'd done something wrong, said something, pushed too hard or not hard enough. I replayed every conversation we'd had, looking for the moment I'd messed up. It drove me crazy. Fletcher, I hired investigators. He turned to face me. 3 different firms over 5 years. They found nothing. You'd covered your tracks perfectly. No forwarding address, no social media trail, no credit cards in your name. It was like you'd ceased to exist. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed silent. I kept working, kept building the company, told myself I was moving on, but I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping that one day I'd get a call saying they'd found you, that I'd get answers. Fletcher's hands clenched at his sides, and then you climb into my car by complete accident, with a son I didn't know existed. And in the space of one afternoon, my entire world has been turned upside down. I'm sorry. The words felt pathetically inadequate. I'm so sorry, Fletcher. I don't want your apologies, Kendra. His voice rose slightly, then he visibly controlled himself. I want to understand. Help me understand how you could keep my son from me for 5 years. How you could struggle like this, watch him go without medicine, be so desperate. You're putting your last dollars into a ride share instead of feeding yourself. How you could choose that instead of reaching out. Because I was scared. The words burst out of me. Because Reeves made me feel like I was nothing. Like I was some kind of con artist trying to trap you. And then I found out I was pregnant, and all I could think about was my baby being seen that way. Being treated that way. I wanted to protect him from that. From me? Fletcher's voice broke. You were protecting him from me. From your world. I corrected. From the scrutiny, the judgment, the people who would look at us and see dollar signs instead of people. So you chose poverty instead. Medical crises? Raising him alone? I chose what I thought was best with the information I had. My voice was rising now too. Was I wrong? Maybe. Probably. But I was 26 years old and pregnant, and scared out of my mind. And the one person I wanted to turn to was the same person I'd been told was better off without me. The silence that followed was heavy. Charged. I would have chosen you. Fletcher's voice was quiet now. Raw. If you'd given me the choice, Kendra, I would have chosen you. Both of you. Every single time. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sank into one of the waiting room chairs, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. You don't know that, I whispered. You don't know what would have happened. The pressure from your family, your board of directors, the media attention. You don't know how you would have felt when reality set in. You're right. Fletcher sat across from me. I don't know for certain, but I know who I am, Kendra. And I know that I don't abandon people I care about. I would have fought for you. For us. You never gave me that chance. We sat there, 2 people on opposite sides of an impossible situation. Both right. Both wrong. Both damaged by choices made in fear. What happens now? I finally asked. Now? Fletcher leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Now we figure out how to move forward. For Caleb's sake, if nothing else. I nodded. That made sense. For Caleb. I want to be his father, Kendra. Really be his father. Not just a name or someone who sends money. I want to be present. Involved. Okay. The word came out smaller than I intended. And I want to help. With his medical care. With stability. Fletcher ran a hand through his hair. I've started a foundation. Healthcare access and technology. I need a director of operations. Someone who understands project management and can navigate complex systems. Are you offering me a job? I couldn't keep the skepticism out of my voice. I'm offering you an opportunity to use your skills while providing the insurance and income you need for Caleb. Fletcher met my eyes. You're qualified, Kendra. More than qualified. This isn't charity. It's recognizing talent and putting it where it can do the most good. And if I say no, then we figure out something else. But one way or another, things are going to change. Caleb needs consistent medical care. You need stability. And I need to be able to be a father to my son. I thought about it. Turned it over in my mind. The offer made sense on paper. Good salary, benefits, work that mattered. But working for Fletcher, seeing him every day, that was complicated in ways I wasn't sure I could handle. There's more, Fletcher continued. I want joint custody, legal documentation establishing my parental rights and responsibilities. I'll provide child support retroactively for the past 5 years, plus a medical trust for Caleb's diabetes management. It was generous, almost overwhelming. That's a lot. It's what's fair. What I should have been providing all along if I'd known. I couldn't argue with that logic. Okay, we can work out custody arrangements. Fletcher was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again, his voice different, lower, more personal. And I want us to try again. My head snapped up. What? 5 years ago, before everything fell apart, we had something real. Fletcher's eyes held mine. I've never forgotten it, Kendra. Never forgotten you. I didn't hire those investigators just to find the woman who disappeared. I did it because I needed to know if what we had was as real as I remembered. Fletcher, we can't just pick up where we left off. I shook my head. Too much has happened. We're different people now. I have Caleb to think about. I know that. He leaned forward. I'm not suggesting we rush into anything, but I want the chance to get to know who you are now, and I want you to know who I've become. For Caleb's sake, we need to be able to work together. Maybe along the way we can figure out if there's something more. Every self-protective instinct I'd honed over 5 years of single motherhood screamed at me to say no, to maintain my independence, to not risk my heart or Caleb's stability on a man who lived in a completely different world. But I looked through the window of the waiting room, back toward Caleb's room. My son, who deserved so much more than I'd been able to give him alone. My son who'd called Fletcher Daddy like the word had been waiting his whole life to be spoken. Okay. The word came out before I could second-guess it. We can try, slowly, for Caleb. Fletcher's smile was like sunrise, warm and bright and full of promise. For Caleb, he agreed. And for us, I wanted to tell him not to hope, not to expect too much, that I was still scared and uncertain and not at all convinced this wouldn't end in disaster. But the words wouldn't come, because despite everything, despite 5 years of running and hiding and building walls, I felt it too. Hope. 3 months later, I sat in my new office at the Hayes Foundation reviewing grant applications from community health centers across the state. The position was everything Fletcher had promised. Challenging, fulfilling, and paid more than I'd ever imagined earning. More importantly, Caleb's diabetes was well managed now. Consistent supply of insulin, regular endocrinologist appointments with Dr. Rivera, even a continuous glucose monitor that sent readings directly to my phone. The arrangement with Fletcher had been working better than I'd dared to hope. We'd established a custody schedule that gave Fletcher regular time, with Caleb, while respecting the routines my son was comfortable with. Fletcher had moved into a brownstone in a family-friendly neighborhood, transforming one bedroom into a space specifically for Caleb, complete with dinosaur sheets, a special medical kit for managing his diabetes, and more toys than any 4-year-old needed. And slowly, carefully, Fletcher and I had been rebuilding what we'd lost 5 years ago. Only this time, we were building something stronger, more honest, tested by real challenges rather than the honeymoon phase we'd never gotten to complete. A knock on my door pulled me from my thoughts. Come in. Thought you might want to join us for lunch. Fletcher stood in the doorway, and my heart did that stupid flutter it had been doing more and more lately. There's a new pizza place claiming to have the best gluten-free crust in the city. This young man wants to test that claim. Caleb poked his head around Fletcher's legs, grinning widely. I was good at my doctor appointment, Mama, so I get to try special pizza. I couldn't help but smile. Fletcher had taken the morning off to bring Caleb to his endocrinology checkup, something they now rotated responsibility for. That's wonderful, baby. I'd love to join you. The pizza place was small and cheerful, tucked between a bookstore and a coffee shop. The gluten-free crust was, in fact, excellent. Caleb kept up a steady stream of chatter about his preschool, where the teachers knew all about diabetes management, and he'd made fast friends with a little girl who had a peanut allergy. We're both special, Caleb explained seriously, tomato sauce on his chin. That makes us best friends. That's beautiful logic, buddy. Fletcher wiped the sauce away with a napkin, the gesture so natural and fatherly that it made my chest tight. After lunch, while Caleb played at the small arcade in the corner, Fletcher pulled me aside. His expression was serious in a way that made my pulse quicken. I wanted to talk to you about something. Is everything okay? Everything's perfect. Fletcher's hand found mine, his thumb brushing across my knuckles. That's actually what I wanted to discuss. I'm listening. These past 3 months, getting to know Caleb, being his father, rebuilding what we had. Fletcher's eyes held mine. It's shown me what I was missing all those years, what I'd been searching for. Fletcher, I'm not proposing, he said quickly, with a slight smile. Not yet. I know we're still finding our way. But I wanted you to know that I'm in this, Kendra. Completely. Not just as Caleb's father, but as someone who's falling in love with you all over again. Someone who wants to build a future together. Tears pricked at my eyes. For so long, I'd been alone, carrying everything on my shoulders. The idea of truly sharing my life with someone, not just co-parenting, but building something together, was both terrifying and wonderful. I'm scared, I admitted, of getting this wrong, of Caleb getting hurt if things don't work out. I'm scared too. Fletcher's hands cupped my face gently. But I think we're stronger together than apart. And I think we owe it to ourselves, to the people we were 5 years ago and the people we are now, to see where this goes. I looked over at Caleb, playing his dinosaur game with intense concentration, healthy, happy, thriving. Then back at Fletcher, at the man who'd never stopped searching for me, who'd welcomed his son with open arms, who'd forgiven me for the years they'd lost. Okay, I whispered. Let's see where this goes. Fletcher's smile was radiant. He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself lean into the embrace. Let myself believe that maybe some mistakes led exactly where you needed to be. Mama, Dad. Caleb was jumping up and down, pointing at his game screen. Come see. I won. We're coming, buddy, Fletcher called back, his arm still around my waist. As we walked toward our son together, I felt something shift in my chest. The last piece of the protective wall I'd built 5 years ago finally crumbling away. In its place was something new, hope, possibility, and the beginning of a future I'd never dared to imagine. I'd gotten into the wrong car on a rainy day, and somehow, impossibly, it had led me exactly where I needed to be, home. The transition into our new routine wasn't without its bumps. There were moments when old fears resurfaced, times when I caught myself waiting for the other shoe to drop. Nights when I lay awake wondering if I was setting Caleb up for heartbreak if this didn't work out. But there were more moments of joy, of watching Fletcher read bedtime stories to Caleb, doing different voices for each dinosaur, of family dinners where we all cooked together, Caleb standing on a stool to help stir, of quiet evenings after Caleb was asleep, when Fletcher and I would talk for hours about everything and nothing. We were building something, carefully, intentionally, with full awareness of how precious and fragile it was. 6 weeks after that lunch conversation, December arrived with the first snowfall of the season. Fletcher invited Caleb and me to help decorate his brownstone for Christmas, our first holiday together as a family. Caleb was beside himself with excitement. He'd never had a Christmas with a father before, never experienced the tradition of picking out a tree together, of stringing lights, while drinking hot chocolate, of the anticipation of presents under a tree. Higher, Daddy. Higher, Caleb directed from his perch on the couch as Fletcher reached to place a star on top of the tree. Any higher and I'll be on the roof, buddy. Fletcher laughed, but he stretched a little further. There. Perfect. Caleb clapped his hands. Mama, look how pretty. It's beautiful, sweetheart. I smiled from my spot by the fireplace where I'd been hanging stockings. Fletcher had bought 3, 1 for each of us. The sight of them had made me tear up in the store. The afternoon passed in a blur of decorations and laughter, Christmas music playing softly, the smell of cinnamon from the cookies baking in the oven, Caleb's endless energy and joy, Fletcher catching my eye across the room and smiling. This was what I'd denied us all. This was what fear had cost. After Caleb finally crashed on the couch, exhausted from the excitement, Fletcher and I cleaned up the wrapping paper and empty decoration boxes. We worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes when you're at ease with someone. I got Caleb's Christmas present today, Fletcher said as he collapsed the last box. I hope you don't mind. What did you get him? A play kitchen. Fletcher looked almost sheepish. He seems fascinated by cooking whenever we're in the kitchen together. Watches everything we do. I thought he might like his own. He's going to love it. I could already picture Caleb's face lighting up. There's something else. Fletcher reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Something for both of you in a way. But I want to be clear that it's not pressure, just an option. I took the envelope, curious. Inside was a key. I looked up at Fletcher, confused. It's to a house, he explained. A brownstone about 15 minutes from both the office and Caleb's daycare. 3 bedrooms, small backyard. I bought it last month. I stared at him. You bought a house? Without telling me? I bought it as an investment property, Fletcher said quickly, but with you and Caleb in mind. It's not my penthouse. It's a family home, in a neighborhood with good schools and parks nearby. I don't understand. My heart was beating faster now. Are you asking us to move into your investment property? I'm offering a compromise. Fletcher took my free hand. I know you have concerns about moving into my space, about you and Caleb fitting into my established life rather than us building something new together. This would be a fresh start for all of us. A home that's ours, not mine that you're joining. The thoughtfulness of it took my breath away. Fletcher had listened to concerns I'd barely voiced, had found a creative solution that honored my need for partnership rather than charity. You'd sell your penthouse? I asked. Eventually. Or keep it as the investment property instead. The important thing is that we'd be creating our home together. From scratch, I turned the key over in my hand. It was a big step, a commitment that felt both exciting and terrifying. Can I see it first? I asked, trying to smile through the emotion clogging my throat. Fletcher's face lit up. Of course. Tomorrow, I can pick you and Caleb up in the morning. The next day dawned bright and cold. Perfect winter weather. Caleb was bundled up in his warmest clothes, practically vibrating with excitement about what Fletcher had described as a special adventure. The brownstone was on a tree-lined street of similar homes. Red brick facade, bay windows, small but well-maintained front garden. As Fletcher unlocked the door, my heart was pounding. Inside, the house was empty but full of potential. Hardwood floors gleaming in winter sunlight. The kitchen was modern but warm. Wooden cabinets, stone countertops. Upstairs, the 3 bedrooms were spacious and bright. This would be Caleb's room. Fletcher showed us a bedroom with a window seat overlooking the backyard. And there's a small office space off the main bedroom for those times when either of us needs to work from home. Caleb ran from room to room, his excitement contagious. His voice echoed through the empty house. Our house, Mama? Is this our house? Maybe, baby. I couldn't commit before I was certain, not with his hope shining so bright. The backyard was small but perfect for a child. Fenced, a patch of grass, room for a swing set. I could imagine summer barbecues, birthday parties, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee on the small patio. What do you think? Fletcher asked as we completed the tour. His expression was hopeful but restrained. I took in the beautiful home. Caleb's obvious delight. Fletcher's thoughtful planning. This wasn't a man trying to fit us into his existing life. This was a man willing to create something entirely new for our future together. I think Caleb and I would be very happy here, I said slowly, watching Fletcher's face. With you, really? His smile was brilliant. You're saying yes? I'm saying yes, I confirmed. Let's do this. Together. The joy in Fletcher's eyes as he wrapped his arms around me confirmed I'd made the right decision. This was what beginning a new chapter looked like. Not without fear, but with hope, stronger than doubt. This is where everything changes for them. If you're feeling this tension, this hope, smash that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, would you take this leap? Would you trust love the second time around? Subscribe, because what happens next, the challenges they'll face and overcome, you won't want to miss a single moment. This family is just beginning their journey. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind. I gave notice on my tiny apartment. Together, Fletcher and I chose furniture for our new home. We decided to move in right after New Year, giving us time to settle before work demands increased again. Christmas was celebrated in my apartment one last time. Tamika joined us for dinner, her eyes suspiciously bright as she watched Fletcher and Caleb put together a puzzle on the floor. You did good, girl, she whispered to me in the kitchen. Real good. Caleb was delighted with his play kitchen from Fletcher. He spent hours cooking pretend meals for everyone. The joy on his face, the security of having 2 parents who loved him. It was everything I'd wanted for him and had been too afraid to reach for. I have something for you too, Fletcher told me after Caleb had finally been put to bed. exhausted from excitement. He handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 3 small charms. A book, a tiny house, a heart. It's beautiful. I breathed as Fletcher fastened it around my wrist. I thought about a ring, he admitted, but that felt like too much too soon. One step at a time, right? Relief and something like disappointment warred in my chest. One step at a time. I agreed. But soon, Fletcher's eyes held a promise that made my pulse race. New Year's Eve found us at Fletcher's penthouse, high above the city as fireworks would soon illuminate the night sky. Caleb had fallen asleep hours earlier in the guest bedroom, that room that had slowly accumulated his toys and books over the months. Any resolutions for the new year? Fletcher asked as we stood by the windows, champagne glasses in hand. To be brave, I said finally, to trust what we're building together, even when it's scary. Fletcher touched his glass to mine. I like that resolution. I think I'll share it. As midnight approached, I reflected on the incredible journey of the past year, from a desperate job seeker caught in the rain to a successful professional with a fulfilling career, from a struggling single mother to a woman in love, building a future for her son that she'd only dreamed possible. 1 minute to midnight. Fletcher checked his watch. I turned to face him fully. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "For what?" "For opening your car door on a rainy day. For seeing something in me worth taking a chance on. For loving Caleb as if he were." I stopped. "He is yours. Thank you for loving our son." Fletcher's eyes softened. "Kendra, you and Caleb aren't the only ones who got a second chance that day. You helped me remember what really matters." As the clock struck midnight and cheers erupted from parties across the city, we shared a kiss that felt like both a culmination and a beginning. 2 days later, we moved into the brownstone together. The day was chaotic. Movers coming and going. Boxes everywhere. Caleb alternating between excitement and being overwhelmed by all the change. By evening, only the essential rooms were set up. The kitchen, Caleb's bedroom, the main bedroom. We ate takeout picnic style on the living room floor, laughing at the absurdity and perfection of it all. After putting an exhausted Caleb to bed in his new room, I found Fletcher in the kitchen unpacking dishes. I wrapped my arms around him from behind, resting my cheek against his back. "We did it," I said softly. "This is our home now." Fletcher turned in my embrace, his hands gently framing my face. "Home is wherever you and Caleb are. The house is just a bonus." That night, lying beside Fletcher in our new bedroom, listening to the unfamiliar creaks and settling sounds of the brownstone, I felt a profound sense of peace. There would be challenges ahead, adjustments to make, lessons to learn about sharing space and building a life together. But for the first time in longer than I could remember, I wasn't facing those challenges alone. I had a partner, someone who valued my strength but didn't expect me to be strong all the time. Someone who saw all of me, flaws included, and loved me not despite them but including them. Through the baby monitor, Caleb's voice came through. Not upset, just talking to himself as he sometimes did when waking briefly. "Home," he said clearly, then fell silent again. I smiled in the darkness. Out of all the words my son could have chosen, that one seemed perfect. Not just a place, but a feeling, a certainty, a heart finding where it belongs. 1 year after that rainy day, 1 year since I'd accidentally climbed into Fletcher Hayes' car with my dying son in my arms, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office at the Hayes Foundation, looking out at the city where my life had been transformed. The view from the 8th floor was beautiful, but it was nothing compared to the view of my life now. My phone buzzed with a notification from Caleb's continuous glucose monitor. I glanced at it out of habit. His blood sugar was perfect, right in the target range. Another notification popped up beneath it. A reminder for his endocrinologist appointment next week. Fletcher was taking him. It was his turn. I still sometimes had to pinch myself that this was real, that my son had consistent medical care, that I had a partner who showed up for doctor's appointments and school events and middle-of-the-night blood sugar checks, that I wasn't drowning anymore. The community empowerment division had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We'd expanded to 5 cities now, thousands of families gaining access to fair banking services, financial literacy programs in schools, Microloans for small businesses in underserved neighborhoods. Work that mattered. Work that changed lives. My assistant knocked on the open door. "Kendra, you have visitors." I turned from the window, puzzled. I didn't have any appointments scheduled. Visitors? Special ones. Her smile was knowing as she stepped aside. Fletcher appeared in the doorway. Caleb peeked around his legs, that grin I loved lighting up his whole face. "Thought you might want to join us for lunch." Fletcher's eyes held mine, and my heart did that stupid flutter it had been doing for months now. "There's a new pizza place claiming to have the best gluten-free crust in the city. This young man wants to test that claim. I was good at my doctor appointment, Mama." Caleb burst out, unable to contain his excitement. "Dr. Rivera said my A1C is perfect, so I get to try special pizza." The pride in his voice made my eyes sting. 6 months ago, we'd been celebrating good numbers. Now we were celebrating perfect ones. Consistency, stability, health. That's wonderful, baby. I saved my work and grabbed my purse. "I'd love to join you." As we walked to the elevator, Caleb between us holding both our hands, I caught Fletcher watching me. There was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. Contentment, maybe. Or satisfaction. Like he was exactly where he wanted to be. The pizza place was tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. Small and cheerful with mismatched chairs and art from local students on the walls. The smell of baking bread hit us as soon as we walked in. The gluten-free crust was in fact excellent. Crispy on the edges, chewy in the middle. Caleb devoured 2 slices before launching into a detailed account of his morning at preschool. "Miss Patricia says I'm the best at sharing," he announced around a mouthful of pizza. "And I helped Zoe today because she was sad. Her goldfish died." "That was very kind of you, buddy." Fletcher handed him a napkin. "What did you do to help?" "I told her my grandma died too, and Mama said she's always with us in our hearts. So I told Zoe her goldfish is in her heart now." Caleb took another bite. She stopped crying. I had to look away for a moment, press my napkin to my eyes. My mother had passed 3 years ago, before Caleb was old enough to really remember her. But I'd tried to keep her memory alive, told him stories, shown him pictures, and somehow my baby had internalized those lessons about love and loss and turned them into compassion for a friend. That was very wise. Fletcher's voice was thick. "I bet Zoe felt much better after talking to you." "She did. We're both special now. Me with my diabetes and her with her sad heart." Caleb's logic was beautifully simple. "Miss Patricia says special people should stick together." "Miss Patricia is absolutely right," I managed to say. After lunch, Caleb spotted a small arcade in the corner. "Can I play, Mama? Please?" "Stay where we can see you." I handed him a few quarters. "And come back when these are gone." We watched him run to the games, his energy boundless now that his health was stable. Such a different child than the pale, weak boy who'd been in my arms a year ago. Fletcher touched my hand. "Can we talk for a minute?" "While he's playing?" Something in his tone made my pulse quicken. "Of course. Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect." His hand found mine properly, fingers lacing together. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss. These past 6 months, Kendra. Getting to know Caleb. Being his father. Rebuilding what we had. It's shown me what I was missing all those years. What I'd been searching for without even knowing it." "Fletcher," I started, but he squeezed my hand gently. "Let me finish. Please." His eyes were intense. "Serious. I've dated since my divorce. Tried to move on. Built a successful company. Convinced myself I was happy. But I wasn't. Not really. There was always something missing. And then you climbed into my car with Caleb, and I realized what it was." "What was it?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Purpose beyond profit. Connection beyond transaction. Family." His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. "You and Caleb, you've given me something I didn't even know I needed. You've made me want to be better. Do better. Not for shareholders or board members, but for the people I love. I'm not proposing," he added quickly, and I felt an irrational stab of disappointment. "Not yet. I know we're still finding our way, learning how to be partners. But I wanted you to know that I'm in this completely, not just as Caleb's father, though that's the greatest gift you could have given me, but as someone who's falling in love with you all over again, someone who wants to build a future together, whatever that looks like." Tears were streaming down my face now. Happy tears, but I couldn't seem to stop them. I'm scared, I admitted, of getting this wrong, of Caleb getting hurt if things don't work out, of not being enough for your world. Fletcher's other hand came up to cup my face, gently wiping away tears with his thumb. I'm scared too, terrified actually, but I think we're stronger together than apart. And the first, think we owe it to ourselves, to the people we were 5 years ago and the people we are now, to see where this goes. I looked over at Caleb. He was playing a dinosaur game, his tongue poking out in concentration, so healthy, so happy, so secure in the knowledge that he had 2 parents who loved him. We'd given him that, together. I want this, I said, turning back to Fletcher. I want us. I'm just afraid of messing it up. Then we'll be afraid together. Fletcher leaned forward, his forehead resting against mine. And we'll figure it out as we go, just like we have been. Mama, Dad, Caleb's voice cut through the moment. Come see. I'm winning. We're coming, buddy, Fletcher called back. But his eyes stayed on mine for another moment. Okay. I nodded. Yes, let's see where this goes. His smile was brilliant, worth every risk. He stood and pulled me up with him. Come on, let's go see our son beat his high score. Our son. The words wrapped around my heart and settled there. Comfortable. Right. As we walked to the arcade, Fletcher's arm slid around my waist. The gesture was casual, natural, but it felt significant. Public affirmation of what we were building. Not hiding anymore. Not just co-parenting. Actually together. Caleb had indeed beaten his high score. The dinosaur on the screen was doing a victory dance that made him giggle. Look, T-Rex is happy because I won. He should be. That's a very impressive score. Fletcher crouched beside him. Think you can beat it again? Maybe. Caleb considered seriously. But I used all my quarters. That's okay. We should probably get back anyway. I smoothed his hair. Mama has a meeting in an hour. Can I come to your office? Caleb asked. I like your office. It has the good snacks. Not today, buddy. But this weekend, you and I are going to the Natural History Museum, Fletcher said. They have a new dinosaur exhibit. Caleb's eyes went wide. Really? With real bones? Real fossils? Fletcher confirmed. We can learn all about how they lived millions of years ago. Can Mama come too? Of course Mama can come, if she wants to. Fletcher glanced at me. I wouldn't miss it, I said, honestly. It sounded perfect, normal, the kind of thing families did together. We walked back to the foundation building together, Caleb chattering about which dinosaurs he most wanted to see, Fletcher and I stealing glances at each other. Something had shifted between us over that lunch. Some unspoken agreement that we were really doing this, committing, moving forward together. At the building entrance, Fletcher pulled me aside while Caleb examined a beetle on the sidewalk. This weekend, he said quietly. After the museum, I was thinking maybe we could have dinner, just the 2 of us. Tamika said she'd be happy to watch Caleb. A date. I felt my cheeks warm. We'd had plenty of family time, but actual alone time, date time, had been rare. Are you asking me out, Mr. Hayes? I am, Miss Washington. His smile was playful. What do you say? I say yes. The answer came easily. I'd love to. Good. He kissed my forehead. A brief touch of lips that still managed to send warmth flooding through me. I'll pick you up at 7. After Fletcher and Caleb left, I floated back up to my office. My assistant took one look at my face and grinned. Good lunch? The best. I couldn't stop smiling. The absolute best. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and anticipation. The museum on Saturday was everything Caleb had hoped for, and more. He'd stood transfixed in front of the T-Rex skeleton, dragged us to every exhibit twice, fell asleep in the car on the way home with a stuffed triceratops clutched in his arms and a smile on his face. Saturday night, I stood in front of my closet trying to figure out what to wear. It had been so long since I'd been on an actual date. Did the navy dress say professional? Was the green one too casual? Why was this so hard? Tamika, who'd arrived early to watch Caleb, laughed at my panic. Girl, you live with the man. He's seen you in your pajamas with bedhead. Just wear something that makes you feel good. She was right. I chose a burgundy dress that I'd bought on impulse months ago but never worn. It hugged my curves in a way that made me feel confident, feminine. I paired it with simple heels and the bracelet Fletcher had given me at Christmas. When I emerged from the bedroom, Tamika whistled. Now that's what I'm talking about. Fletcher's not going to know what hit him. Caleb looked up from his coloring book. Mama, you look like a princess. Thank you, baby. I kissed the top of his head. You be good for Auntie Tamika, okay? I will. He went back to his dinosaurs without concern. So secure now. So sure of his place in our lives that my going out for the evening didn't worry him at all. The doorbell rang precisely at 7. I opened it to find Fletcher in dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that made his eyes look almost black. He was holding flowers, not roses. Sunflowers, my favorite. You remembered. I took the bouquet, touched beyond words. I remember everything. His eyes traveled over me. You look beautiful, Kendra. You look pretty good yourself. I felt suddenly shy, like we were starting over again, like this was the first date we never got to have 5 years ago. The restaurant was intimate, low lighting, soft music, the kind of place designed for conversation and connection. Fletcher had reserved a corner table, private but not isolated. This is lovely, I said as we settled in. I wanted tonight to be special. Fletcher reached across the table for my hand. We've been so focused on Caleb, on building stability, that we haven't really taken time for just us. He's the priority, I said reflexively. He is, Fletcher agreed. But that doesn't mean we can't also prioritize each other. In fact, I think we need to. For Caleb's sake. He deserves to see what a healthy relationship looks like. Is that what this is? I asked softly. A healthy relationship? I think it's becoming one. Fletcher's thumb traced patterns on my palm. We're honest with each other. We communicate. We share responsibility. We're building something based on mutual respect and genuine care. That's healthier than a lot of marriages I've seen. The waiter arrived to take our order. After he left, Fletcher shifted the conversation. Tell me something I don't know about you. Something from the past 5 years. I thought about it. I took a pottery class, I said finally. When Caleb was 2, I needed something that was just mine. Something creative that had nothing to do with diabetes management or job hunting. It was terrible at it. Everything I made was lopsided, but I loved it. Do you still have any of the pieces? 1. A misshapen bowl that's supposed to be a planter. Caleb keeps his toy cars in it. Fletcher smiled. I'd like to see it sometime. Your turn, I said. Tell me something from your years of searching for me. I went to therapy. The admission seemed to cost him something. After you disappeared, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd done something wrong, that I'd missed some signal. My therapist helped me work through my tendency to take responsibility for things outside my control. That must have been hard. I squeezed his hand. I'm sorry I put you through that. I'm not asking for an apology, Fletcher said. I'm just sharing, being honest. The therapy helped me in other ways too, helped me process my childhood, the abuse, how it shaped the way I approach relationships and business. I knew Fletcher's father had been difficult, but he'd never used the word abuse before. I'm glad you had support, I said quietly. You deserved that. We all deserve support. He met my eyes. You carried everything alone for 5 years. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, I admitted. There were nights I wasn't sure we'd make it. Times I considered calling you, or my mother before she died. But pride or fear or stubbornness kept me from reaching out. What would you tell yourself now? If you could go back? Fletcher considered the question seriously. I'd tell myself that asking for help isn't weakness. That partnership is strength. That some things matter more than pride. The conversation continued through dinner. Deep. Honest. Covering topics we'd never had time or space to explore before. His dreams for the foundation. My ideas for expanding our programs. Both our hopes for Caleb's future. The give and take felt natural. Balanced. Like we were genuinely partners. Over dessert, Fletcher's expression turned more serious. I've been thinking about something, he said. About us. Our future. My heart rate picked up. Okay. I know we said we'd take things slowly, and we have been. But Kendra, I don't want to waste any more time. I've already lost 5 years with you and Caleb. I don't want to lose another day to fear or caution or waiting for the perfect moment. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. Fletcher's voice was steady, clear. I love you completely. I love the mother you are, the professional you've become, the woman who climbs into the wrong car and changes my entire life. I love your strength and your vulnerability, your determination and your compassion. All of it. Tears spilled over before I could stop them. I love you too. The words came out choked. I've loved you for so long. Even when I was hiding. Even when I convinced myself it was over, I never stopped. Then let's stop hiding. Fletcher stood and moved around the table, slid into the booth beside me. Let me love you openly, publicly. Let's build this life together without reservations. I'm still scared, I whispered. So am I. He kissed me softly. But I'm more scared of not trying, of looking back and wondering what if. When we finally pulled apart, I was smiling through my tears. How did we get here? From that rainy day to this? Fate, Fletcher said. Or chance. Or divine intervention. Does it matter? I guess not. I rested my head on his shoulder. All that matters is we're here now. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other, making promises without words, building a future in the space between heartbeats. When we finally made it back to the brownstone, Tamika took one look at us and grinned. Good date? The best, Fletcher and I said simultaneously, then laughed. After Tamika left and we'd checked on a sleeping Caleb, Fletcher and I stood in the hallway outside our bedroom. The house was quiet, peaceful, ours. Thank you, I said, for tonight, for all of it. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Fletcher pulled me close, for letting me be part of this family. It's your family too, I reminded him. It always was. I just didn't let you know it. Well, I know it now. He kissed me again, deeper this time, full of promise and heat and love. And I'm never letting go. 6 months passed in a blur of happiness, of building routines and traditions, of lazy Sunday mornings and hectic weekday schedules, of Caleb's 5th birthday party in the backyard with friends from preschool, of watching Fletcher learn to check blood sugar in his sleep when Caleb's monitor alarmed, of falling more in love every single day. The foundation continued to grow. Our mobile banking initiative won a National Innovation Award. We'd expanded to 12 cities now. I was promoted to VP of Community Impact. The work was demanding, but deeply fulfilling, changing lives on a scale I'd never imagined possible. And through it all, Fletcher and I grew closer, more intertwined, more certain that what we had was real and lasting and worth fighting for. In early December, an invitation arrived, the Hayes Foundation Annual Gala, a fundraising event that brought together donors, community partners, and city leaders. Black tie, fancy, the kind of event that used to intimidate me. But I wasn't that scared woman anymore. I was the VP of Community Impact, a homeowner, a mother, a woman in love with an incredible man. I belonged in those spaces now. Still, when the night of the gala arrived, nerves fluttered in my stomach as I got ready. The midnight blue gown I'd chosen was elegant, more expensive than anything I'd owned before Fletcher. It made me feel beautiful, confident. Tamika was staying with Caleb. She'd arrived early to help me with my hair and makeup. Girl, you are killing it, she said as she finished the last curl. Fletcher's not going to be able to keep his eyes off you. That's sort of the point, I admitted. Is that bad? That's called being in love. Tamika grinned. Enjoy it. Downstairs, Fletcher was waiting in the living room. He'd already been dressed when I started getting ready. Black tuxedo, crisp white shirt. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. But when he saw me descending the stairs, his expression made me feel like the only woman in the world. Kendra, he breathed. You're stunning. You're not so bad yourself. I took his offered hand at the bottom of the stairs. Mama, you look like a queen. Caleb appeared from the kitchen, where he'd been having a snack with Tamika. Thank you, baby. I bent carefully to kiss him. You be good tonight, okay? I will. He hugged Fletcher next. Have fun at your fancy party, Dad. We will, buddy. Fletcher's voice was thick. We'll tell you all about it tomorrow. The gala was held in the ballroom of the Riverside Hotel. Glittering, elegant, full of the city's elite gathered to celebrate the foundation's work and open their wallets for our programs. I'd helped plan this event, reviewed every detail. But walking in on Fletcher's arm, I saw it with new eyes. the impact we were making, the lives we were changing. It was humbling, inspiring. Fletcher worked the room with practiced ease, but every few minutes, his eyes would find mine across the crowd. A private smile, a subtle wink, grounding me, reminding me I wasn't alone in this. Dr. Rivera found me near the bar. She was elegant in a silver gown. "Kendra, you look beautiful, and more importantly, you look happy." "I am." I couldn't stop smiling. "Happier than I've been in a long time, maybe ever." "Caleb's doing wonderfully," Dr. Rivera said. His latest A1C was 0.6%. "That's exceptional control for a child his age. We work hard at it," I said. "Fletcher and I both. It shows." Dr. Rivera's eyes were kind. "Whatever you're doing as a family, keep doing it. The consistency, the stability, it's making all the difference for that little boy." After she walked away, I felt a hand on my lower back. "Fletcher, 5 minutes until your speech," he said quietly. "Are you ready?" My speech. Right. I was unveiling the Foundation's newest initiative tonight. Comprehensive Diabetes Management Program providing free supplies, education, and support to underserved families. A program born from my own struggles, my own desperation, transformed into something that would help thousands of children like Caleb. "I'm ready," I said with more confidence than I felt. "You're going to be amazing." Fletcher kissed my temple. "I believe in you." Those 4 words steadied me more than anything else could have. When I took the stage and looked out at the crowd of donors and partners and community members, I felt a surge of purpose. This was why I was here, not just for the job or the salary or the insurance, but for this, to make a difference, to ensure no other mother had to watch her child suffer because she couldn't afford medicine. 5 years ago, I began, my voice steady and clear. I was a mother watching my son suffer because I couldn't afford the medicine he needed to survive. I made choices out of desperation and fear, some good, some I would change if I could. But those experiences taught me something valuable, that healthcare shouldn't be a luxury, that no parent should have to choose between their child's health and keeping a roof over their head. I spoke about the new program, about access and equity and second chances, about the power of community support and systemic change. As I talked, my eyes found Fletcher in the crowd. He was watching me with unmistakable pride. Caleb wasn't with us tonight, but I could picture him, healthy and loved and thriving because we'd fought for him together. "This program isn't charity," I continued. "It's justice. It's the recognition that every child deserves the chance to grow up healthy. Every family deserves support in managing chronic conditions. Every community deserves access to quality health care. And with your support tonight, we're going to make that vision a reality for thousands of families across this region." The applause when I finished was thunderous, genuine. I stepped off the stage feeling lighter than air, like I'd finally stepped fully into my purpose, my calling. Fletcher found me immediately, pulling me into his arms. "You were incredible," he murmured against my hair. "Absolutely incredible. We did this together." I reminded him. All of it. The rest of the evening passed in a happy blur. Conversations with donors, gratitude from community partners, photos for the Foundation's website and social media. Through it all, Fletcher stayed close, my partner in every sense of the word. As the event was winding down, Fletcher pulled me aside, found us a quiet corner away from the crowd. "Can we talk for a minute?" Of course. I studied his face. He looked nervous, excited, something that made my heart race. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect." He took both my hands. "That's actually what I want to talk about. Kendra, standing here tonight, watching you speak, seeing the impact we're making together, it's made me more certain than ever about what I want." "What do you want?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Forever." Fletcher said simply, "You, Caleb, this life we're building, all of it, forever." Before I could respond, he moved, reached into his jacket pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught. "I know I said I wasn't ready before," Fletcher continued, "that we needed more time. But Kendra, I've loved you for 5 years, even when I didn't know where you were. I've spent the last 1.5 years getting to know you all over again, and every day I'm more certain that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, both of you." He opened the box, Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the wall. It was perfect. Around us, people were starting to notice, to turn and watch. But all I could see was Fletcher, on one knee now, looking up at me with such love and hope that I could barely breathe. Kendra Washington. His voice was steady despite the emotion in his eyes. You walked into my life by accident, but staying there has been the most deliberate choice I've ever made. You've shown me what real partnership means. Supporting each other's dreams, facing challenges together, creating joy in small moments and big ones. You and Caleb have given me the family I never thought I'd have. You've made me want to be better, do better, not just for my company or my foundation, but for the people I love. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't bother to wipe them away. Will you marry me? Fletcher asked. Will you let me be the husband you deserve and the father Caleb needs? Will you build this beautiful, complicated, perfect life with me? Through tears and laughter and overwhelming joy, I managed one word. Yes. The crowd erupted in applause, but I barely heard it. Fletcher was standing, sliding the ring onto my finger, kissing me like we were the only two people in the world. When we finally pulled apart, I was laughing and crying at the same time. You planned this, I accused. The whole night, the gala, my speech. I wanted the moment to be as special as you are. Fletcher's thumb wiped tears from my cheek. Was it too much? It was perfect. I kissed him again. You're perfect. This is perfect. Around us, people were congratulating us, hugging us, celebrating with us. But the only thing that mattered was the man in front of me. The future stretching out ahead of us. The family we'd built from the wreckage of mistakes and second chances. Later that night, after we'd returned home and paid Tamika and checked on us sleeping, Caleb, Fletcher, and I stood in the doorway of what would soon become a nursery. Currently, it was Fletcher's home office, but we'd already begun planning its transformation. I was thinking, Fletcher said, his arm around my waist, if it's a boy, we could name him after your father. What was his name? James, I said softly. He died when I was young, but my mother always spoke highly of him. James Hayes. Fletcher tested it out. I like it. And if it's a girl, maybe after your mother, I suggested. You never talk about her much, but I know she mattered to you. Catherine. Fletcher's voice held old pain and love. She would have loved you, almost as much as I do. I wish I could have met her. I leaned into his embrace. She would have been so proud of Caleb, of the mother you are, of the work you're doing. Fletcher kissed the top of my head. Thank you for letting me honor her this way. We're a family now, I reminded him. Your history is part of our story, too. As we stood there in the quiet house, planning for a future that had seemed impossible just a year ago, I marveled at the journey we'd taken. From a rain-soaked mistake to this moment of perfect clarity, from fear and hiding to love and commitment, from struggling alone to building together. What are you thinking about? Fletcher asked, noting my pensive expression. How sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them. I said, how grateful I am for that rainy day. For getting into the wrong car. Some might call it chance, Fletcher said, or fate, or divine intervention, or just two people who needed each other finding their way to the right place at the right time. I amended, even if one of them had to accidentally steal a car to make it happen. Mistakenly enter, Fletcher corrected with a laugh. And I'd do it all again. So would I. I turned in his arms to face him. Every single time. The wedding was in the spring. Small, intimate, just close friends and family in the backyard of our brownstone. Caleb was the ring bearer, taking his job very seriously as he walked down the makeshift aisle. Tamika was my maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. When Fletcher and I exchanged vows, I saw our whole journey reflected in his eyes. The pain and the joy, the loss and the finding, the fear and the courage, all of it leading to this moment. I promise to love you in the easy times and the hard ones. I said, to be your partner in all things, to build our family on honesty and trust, and the kind of love that grows stronger with every challenge we face together. I promise to cherish you and Caleb. Fletcher's voice was thick with emotion. To show up every single day. To be worthy of the second chance you've given me. To love you both with everything I have for as long as I live." When we kissed as husband and wife, Caleb cheered louder than anyone. "That's my mama and daddy," he announced to everyone. "They're married now." The reception was joyful. Dancing in the grass, cake that Caleb could actually eat thanks to careful carb counting, toasts that made us laugh and cry. As the sun set and lights came on in the trees, Fletcher and I slow danced while Caleb ran around with the other children. "Mrs. Hayes," Fletcher murmured against my hair. "How does it feel?" "Perfect," I said honestly. "Absolutely perfect." 2 years later, I stood outside the Mercy General Medical Center, where it all began. The same spot where I'd waited in the rain with Caleb dying in my arms, where I'd made the desperate choice to take any ride that stopped, where I'd climbed into Fletcher's car and changed the entire trajectory of my life. But I wasn't alone this time. Fletcher stood beside me, our daughter Elena sleeping in his arms. She was 8 months old, healthy, beautiful, with her father's eyes and my smile. Caleb held my hand, 7 years old now, thriving in 2nd grade. His diabetes perfectly managed. He was tall for his age, smart, compassionate, everything I'd hoped he'd be, and more. "Why are we stopped here, Mama?" Caleb asked. "This is where we're going to the hospital?" "No, baby." I squeezed his hand. "Just remembering." "Remembering what?" "A very important day," Fletcher said. "The day everything changed." Caleb considered this. "The day Mama got in your car by accident?" "Exactly that day." I confirmed. 2 years ago. Right here. And now, we're a family. Caleb stated matter-of-factly. "Because of the accident. Because of a lot of things." Fletcher adjusted Elena in his arms. "But yes, that accident started it all. I was sick that day," Caleb remembered. "Really sick. But I don't remember much." "You were very brave," I told him, "and Daddy helped us." Fletcher looked at me over Caleb's head. His eyes held memories. Gratitude. Love. "We helped each other," he said quietly. "We stood there for another moment, watching people come and go from the hospital. Emergency vehicles pulling up. Families reuniting. Life happening in all its messy, beautiful complexity. "Come on," I said finally. "We're going to be late." We walked together to the building next door. The new Hayes Foundation Community Health Center. Grand opening today. Free diabetes management program. Mental health services. Financial counseling. Everything I'd wished had existed when I was struggling alone. Inside, the ribbon-cutting ceremony was about to start. As VP of Community Impact, I was giving the keynote address. But first, Fletcher as Foundation President would make opening remarks. I watched him take the stage with Elena still in his arms, refusing to hand her to the nanny we'd brought. He wanted our daughter there for this moment. Part of our family's mission. 2 years ago, Fletcher began. Someone very important to me was standing outside this hospital in the rain, desperate, scared, trying to figure out how to save her son's life with no resources and no support system. She made a choice that day that changed both our lives. She got into the wrong car, my car, and that mistake, that accident, led to everything we're celebrating today. The audience laughed softly, appreciating the story. "But it shouldn't take an accident," Fletcher continued. "It shouldn't require a chance encounter with someone who has resources to get help. Every family deserves access to quality health care. Every parent deserves support in managing chronic conditions. Every community deserves resources to build health and wellness. And that's what this center represents. Not charity, not accidents, but intentional, sustained commitment to ensuring everyone has what they need to thrive." The applause was genuine, heartfelt. I felt my eyes sting with tears. "And now," Fletcher said, "I'd like to introduce the person who made this vision a reality. My wife, the love of my life, the mother of my children, and the VP of Community Impact for the Hayes Foundation, Kendra Hayes." I took the stage, hugged my husband, kissed my daughter's forehead, smiled at Caleb in the front row. Then I turned to the audience. 5 years ago, I began. I was a mother watching my son suffer because I couldn't afford medicine. I was a woman who'd made choices out of fear that I thought would protect my child, but instead isolated us both. I was someone who believed asking for help was weakness, that struggling alone was strength. I was wrong. I spoke about community, about systems, about the power of partnership and second chances, about how one moment, one choice, one open door could change everything. My son is healthy now. I gestured to Caleb, because I got help, because I was brave enough to accept it, because I had a partner who wouldn't let me struggle alone anymore. Every family deserves that same chance, that same support, that same partnership with their community, and that's what we're building here today. After the ceremony, after the tours and photos and interviews with local media, our family finally made it home. Caleb was exhausted. Elena was fussy. Fletcher and I were drained but happy. After getting both kids settled, Caleb in bed with a story and Elena in her crib, Fletcher and I collapsed on the couch together. Big day, he said, pulling me against his chest. The best. I agreed. Did you see how many people showed up? The community support. We're making a real difference. Fletcher's hand stroked my hair. You're making a real difference. We, I corrected. Always we. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just breathing, being together. Finally, Fletcher spoke again. Do you ever think about that day? Really think about it? All the time, I admitted. How desperate I was. How scared. How I almost didn't get in your car because I saw it was wrong. What made you do it anyway? Caleb, I said simply. I would have done anything for him, even climb into a stranger's car. Best decision you ever made. Fletcher said, for both of us. I turned to look up at him. Do you really think it was just an accident? Just chance? Fletcher considered the question. I think maybe we make our own chances. You were brave enough to take a risk. I was searching hard enough that the universe put us in the same place at the same time. And when we found each other, we were both brave enough to try again, to forgive, to build something new. That was an accident. That was choice. I like that. I settled back against him. The idea that we chose this. We did choose it. Fletcher's arms tightened around me. Every day we choose it. Choose each other. Choose our family. Choose love over fear. Through the baby monitor, we heard Elena stirring. Then Caleb's voice, quietly talking to himself the way he did sometimes. I love my family, he said to his stuffed T-Rex, Mama and Daddy and baby Elena. We're all special together. Fletcher and I looked at each other, both blinking back tears. Out of the mouths of babes. Fletcher whispered, he gets that from you, I said. That wisdom. He gets it from both of us. Fletcher corrected. From watching us choose each other, choose love, choose to build something beautiful from broken pieces. We sat there as the evening deepened into night, our children sleeping peacefully, our home full of love and laughter and life. The journey from that rainy day to this quiet moment had been anything but easy. There had been tears and fights and moments of doubt. There would be more ahead. Life wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours, built on honesty and partnership and the courage to try again, to forgive, to believe in second chances, to trust that sometimes getting lost was how you found your way home. I thought about the woman I'd been 5 years ago, scared, alone, convinced that she had to do everything herself. I wished I could go back and tell her that help was coming, that the wrong car would turn out to be exactly right, that the man she was running from would become her greatest partner, that the future was brighter than anything she could imagine. But maybe I didn't need to go back. Maybe I just needed to be here, in this moment, with this man, building this life, showing my children what love looked like, teaching them through example that bravery wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite it. What are you thinking about? Fletcher asked, sensing my reflective mood. Just how far we've come, I said. How different everything is now. Better? He asked. So much better, I confirmed. I never knew life could be like this, that I could feel this happy, this secure, this loved. You deserve all of it. Fletcher kissed the top of my head. You always did. You just needed someone to help you see it. We helped each other see it. I reminded him. That's what partnership means. The next morning was Sunday, our favorite day. No alarms, no schedules, just family time. Fletcher made pancakes while I nursed Elena. Caleb set the table with mismatched plates he'd chosen himself from the cabinet. After breakfast, we bundled up for a walk to the park. The spring air was perfect, warm enough to be comfortable, cool enough to be refreshing. At the park, Caleb ran to the swings while Fletcher pushed Elena in the baby swing. I watched from a nearby bench, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was everything. This ordinary Sunday morning. These small moments that made up a life. This was what I'd been searching for without knowing it. Not wealth or status or security, though those things helped, but connection, family, love that showed up in the everyday moments. "Mama," Caleb called. "Push me higher." "I'm coming, baby." I walked over to his swing, began to push him higher like he asked. "As high as the sky?" He asked. "As high as you want to go." I promised. "I'll always be here to push you. And Daddy too." "And Daddy too." Fletcher confirmed from the next swing over. "We're both here, buddy. Always." Later, as we walked home with tired, happy children, a car drove past. Sleek and black, similar to Fletcher's. I watched it go and thought about how different my life would be if I hadn't made that desperate choice. If I'd waited for the right car. If I'd been too proud or scared to accept help. "Everything okay?" Fletcher noticed my attention on the car. More than okay. I took his free hand. His other arm held Elena. "Just thinking about wrong cars and right moments." Fletcher smiled, understanding immediately. "Best wrong car ever." "Agreed." I laughed, though I still maintain I didn't steal it. I mistakenly entered it. Semantics. Fletcher teased. But I'll allow it. That night, after the kids were asleep, Fletcher and I stood at our bedroom window, looking out at the neighborhood we'd made our home. Lights in windows. Families settling in for the night. Our community, our life. "No regrets?" Fletcher asked quietly. "Not a single one." I leaned against him. "You?" "Only that I didn't find you sooner. That we lost those 5 years. But we found each other when we needed to." I reasoned. "Maybe not when we wanted to, but when we were ready, when we could actually build something lasting." "You're probably right." Fletcher turned me in his arms. "You usually are." I kissed him slowly. Thoroughly. Grateful for this man, this life, this second chance we'd been given. When we finally pulled apart, Fletcher rested his forehead against mine. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For getting into the wrong car. For being brave enough to let me help. For giving us a chance. For loving me. For all of it. Thank you for never stopping the search. For seeing me. For loving Caleb like he was yours from the moment you knew. For being the partner I didn't know I needed." We stood there in the quiet, in our home, with our children sleeping down the hall, and I thought about the story we'd tell them when they were older, about rain and wrong cars, about fear and courage, about second chances and the power of love to transform everything. "Some mistakes aren't really mistakes at all," I said softly. "Sometimes they're exactly what needs to happen." "You really believe that?" Fletcher asked. "I do." I pulled back to look at him. Every choice I made, even the wrong ones, even running away, it all led here. To you, to us, to this family. Maybe it had to happen exactly the way it did. Fletcher considered this. "So you're saying getting into my car wasn't a mistake at all?" I smiled. Maybe it was the first truly right thing I'd done in years. As we finally headed to bed, both of us exhausted but content, I thought about all the ways life could have gone differently. All the sliding door moments that could have changed everything. But they didn't. Because at every fork in the road, we chose each other, chose our family, chose love. And that was the real story. Not the accident of getting into the wrong car, but the intentional choice to stay, to try, to build something beautiful from the wreckage of fear and mistakes and lost time. That was the story I would tell our children. That love wasn't just feeling. It was choice. Daily. Deliberate, brave, and that sometimes the best things in life started with mistakes that turned out to be exactly right. If this story has touched your heart, I need you to do 3 things. First, hit that like button and let me know this resonated with you. Second, drop a comment and tell me, what's a mistake in your life that turned out to be a blessing? What's your wrong car moment? And third, subscribe to Love in Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because every week we're bringing you stories about second chances, unexpected love, and the courage it takes to build the life you deserve. Kendra's story reminds us that sometimes getting lost is how we find our way home, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength, that the things we run from might be exactly what we need, and that love, real love, is worth every risk. Remember, the wrong turn might lead you exactly where you need to be. The mistake might be the beginning of your miracle, and the car you climb into by accident might be carrying the person who'll change your life forever. Until next time, keep believing in the power of second chances. Keep trusting that your story isn't over. Keep choosing courage over fear. And keep your heart open to the possibility that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Thank you for being part of the Love and Twilights family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories of hope and transformation. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that it's never too late for a second chance. That love can find you when you least expect it, and that sometimes the wrong car is exactly the right one. This is Dr. Phillips reminding you that your story matters. Your journey matters. And somewhere out there, your second chance is waiting. All you have to do is be brave enough to take it. Until next time, keep believing in love and twilights.